of the other shluchim in our area as well. So at least I have a built-in 500,000 or so. And it looks like we are going to be running close to the limit over, we're already well over 110, and we're just starting. So my first thank you is to all of you that joined us. And before I introduce Rabbi Wolf, I want to tell you something about him. I know him from his yeshiva days, but I actually know him from longer than that because I knew his father. His father, Berke Wolf, was the spokesperson for Chabad in Israel. He was more than just a spokesperson. He was a Ish HaKesher. He was the one that actually tied Chabad in with so many elements of Israeli society, going back to the early days, and literally is a legend in Chabad today. Rabbi Wolf, his son, who I knew as a yeshiva bacher, took the incredible leap and became a shliach in Kherson. We're going to hear about what it's like to be in Kherson right now, under occupation, as I understand it. But I must tell you that while I haven't heard this from him directly, coming to Kherson some 20 years ago, almost 30 years ago, when he came to Kherson, which was at the time not occupied by a foreign army, I don't think that the living conditions there were much better. It was literally an act of self-sacrifice just simply to go there. And he is not unique in this respect. All of the shluchim in the former Soviet Union came into appallingly difficult situations and threw their lot in with the Jewish communities that they were sent to serve, became integral parts of those communities, and played a great role in lifting up the standards of those communities, not just in a spiritual way, but literally in a material way as well. So while there are those that stand in an absolute wonder, how is it that the Chabad shluchim remain under such incredibly difficult circumstances that requires almost unimaginable self-sacrifice to remain in a war zone when you have open hands waiting for you elsewhere? It's unbelievable. But for Chabad shluchim, it's quite believable because that's who they are, and that's what they've been doing now for 30 years in the former Soviet Union. So with that having been said, in certain places, staying remained literally untenable. So many did have to leave with their communities and made sure that anybody that could leave would leave first. Rabbi Wolf, however, living in the south of Ukraine, and Kherson was one of the first cities that was surrounded by the Russian army, and leaving was not even a possibility. I mean, I imagine he can go to Russia and leave that way, but it's not something that he's prepared to do while his community is there. So I guess I'll begin by asking Rabbi Wolf to tell us what the situation is like now on the ground in Kherson. We've had several conversations just a little while ago about language. Unfortunately for him, I have heard him speak English, and he doesn't do it as terribly as he claims he does. But I agreed that if he finds it difficult, I will translate Rabbi Wolf's English into English. No, Yossi, it's yours.
Shalom, everybody. My name is Yossi. I'm a Chabad Shliach in Kherson, Ukraine. Like Rabbi Dern said, since 1993, Baruch Hashem. Right now, the situation in Kherson is that we are, for 2 weeks already, totally occupied from all sides, which means that it's impossible to get out and to get in since last 2 weeks ago, Thursday afternoon. And when I say occupied, which means that there is nothing coming, it's food also doesn't come in. I think it will be better for me to speak in Hebrew because I want to give exactly the situation. It will be much easier for me Hebrew. אז המצב עכשיו הוא כזה, שבמשך שבועיים לא נכנס אוכל חדש לעיר.
No new food came into the city in the last 2 weeks.
מה שהיה בחנויות ואנשים קנו ונגמר הכל.
The stores are literally empty.
ולפני שבועיים ביום שישי בבוקר, היום אנחנו ביום, אצלנו כבר יום רביעי בלילה, עכשיו כבר 12 בלילה פה, וביום שישי בבוקר צלצלתי לאיזה חנות פה, ושאלתי אותם, האם יש משהו בחנות? הם אמרו לי שאין שום דבר.
I called one of the stores and asked if there's anything in the store at all. They said nothing at all.
ואז אמרתי לאשתי, הרבנית חיה, שאם אנחנו לא נעשה עכשיו משהו דחוף ביותר, זה אומר שכל הקהילה הולכים ללכת להיות פשוט חס וחלילה למות ברעב.
I said to my wife, if we don't do something immediately, we're facing the very real possibility of our community literally starving.
וזה הזמן שצריכים להפעיל את כל הקשרים שלנו שצברנו במשך 30 שנה.
Now is the time to use all of the connections we've managed to create in the last 30 years.
וזה גם הזמן שמסתבר שהמלאכים הטובים מופיעים בדרך.
It looks like now is the time that the good angels happen to be on our way, in our path.
והתחלתי לבדוק ממי אני בעצם יכול לנסות להשיג אוכל. ואשתי אמרה לי, יש איזה יהודי אחד, חברמן, חבר קהילה שלנו, שמתעסק בכל מיני עסקים של קנייה ומחירה.
There is a member in the community who is a dealer, okay, with in all types of merchandise, as it were.
צלצלתי אליו ואמרתי לו שזה הסיפור, שיש עכשיו בעיה אמיתית לקהילה, שצריכים חובה לקנות עכשיו הרבה מאוד כמויות של אוכל, בסיסי.
I told him we're dealing with a real issue, and now is the time we need to buy the kind of fundamental staples we need to be able to get.
הוא שאל אותי מה צריך, אמרתי לו קמח, סוכר, אורז, גרצ'קה, קוואקר, מקרונים ושמן וביצים.
There was 3 foods that were in Russian or Ukrainian, I don't know what they were, but basically flour, oil, sugar, grain, and other staples.
Macaroni
and eggs.
ואז הוא אומר לי, תן לי 10 דקות לבדוק את העניין.
He said, give me 10 minutes.
הוא מתקשר אליי אחרי 10 דקות, ואם פעם היה מושג ששואלים אותך מאיפה השגת דבר, ואתה אומר מתחת לאדמה, אז הפעם זה היה מושג אמיתי, מתחת לאדמה. קרא לי לחבר שלו, שפתח לי מחסני חירום, emergency warehouses.
If ever the concept, I found it literally underground, this was it. A friend of his called me and opened up an emergency warehouse.
ופשוט התחלנו לנסוע הלוך חזור עם המכונית שלי ועוד מכונית של חבר, ולקחת פשוט טונות, לקחת פשוט טונות מכל הדברים האלה.
A friend of mine and I took our cars and began transporting literally tons of material.
והתחלנו להכין פשוט אלפי חבילות מזון.
And began putting together thousands of packages of food.
ובמשך השבועיים האחרונים, כל 3 ימים אנחנו מחלקים למעלה מ1,000 חבילות מזון.
Every 3 days for the last 2 weeks, we've been giving out over 1,000 packages of food, literally.
מי שיכול מגיע בכוחות עצמו לבית הכנסת במשך היום, כי בלילה אסור לצאת עכשיו, יש עוצר בחוץ.
During the day, people can come to the shul. At night, there's a curfew. We can't leave. Remember, midnight now.
מ-8 p.m. עד 6 a.m. אסור לצאת מהבית.
From 8 to 6, there's a curfew. You can't leave the house.
מי שלא יכול להגיע, יש עוד חבורה של מלאכים, שפשוט נוסעים לסקנים הביתה כל יום, במשך כל היום נוסעים לסקנים ומחלקים חבילות מזון.
Those that can't leave the house during the day, elderly people or people who aren't well, we have another group of angels that literally go from house to house to people in the community that can't leave their houses themselves to bring them food.
עכשיו, מכיוון שיש פה גם בעיה של דלק בעיר, אז הרבה מהאנשים שאמרתי לכם, הם פשוט הולכים מהבית כנסת ולפי קבוצות מתחלקים ומחלקים באזורים שהולכים פשוט ברגל וסוחבים חבילות, כי גם אי אפשר לנסוע עם מכונית לפעמים.
In fact, they can't even go by car because there's very little fuel to be bought. So they literally have to walk, and Kherson is not a small city.
וזה מה שאנחנו עושים עכשיו בכל השבועיים האחרונים.
That's basically the last 2 weeks.
עכשיו, אני אומר, יש כל כך הרבה אהבה שאנחנו מקבלים מכל העולם, והרבה מאוד חברים מתקשרים אליי, מכל העולם, וחלקם מנסים לעזור פיננסית, ויש גם הרבה שמתקשרים לתמוך מורלית. אחד מהחברים שהתקשר לתמוך מורלית, הוא אומר לי, כבוד הרב, אתה יודע, בעזרת השם, עוד שבוע מהיום כבר פורים, הוא אמר לי את זה לפני 3 ימים, הוא אומר לי, עוד שבוע וחצי פורים, בעזרת השם הכל יהיה בסדר, ונהפכו, ויהפכו ימים אלה לששון ולשמחה, ואז אמרתי לו, תקשיב, אני בטוח בעזרת השם שנחגוג פורים. אבל מה שעכשיו אנחנו צריכים, מה שעכשיו אנחנו עושים לדאוג שהיהודים שלנו יגיעו בחיים לפורים.
I am overwhelmed by the love that we are receiving here in Kherson. So many are calling me friends. There are those that call with financial help. There are those that call with moral help. A friend called a couple of days ago and said to me, I promise you it's going to get better. In another week and a half, it's Purim. Everything's going to turn around upside down to the good, and it's going to be good. And I responded to him, I know that Purim is coming. And I know that in a week from half from now, Purim will come and we're going to be here. But I need that the members of my community should be here alive. And that's what I am afraid about.
אתמול מצאתי זהב.
I found gold yesterday.
זהב שקוראים לזה תפוחי אדמה, גזר, סלק ובצל.
Yesterday, I found gold that is called in another language, potatoes, onions, and carrots.
וסלק.
And cabbage.
ואני אומר, זה ממש לא בדיחה. גם אם יש לך כסף, אי אפשר לקנות את הדברים האלה פה.
And it's unbelievable. Even with money, it's not possible to buy this stuff here.
וככה אנחנו בניסי ניסים מצליחים לשרוד את התקופה הזאת. אני מאוד מאוד מאמין, אנחנו אנשים מאמינים, לכן אנחנו פה. אני מאוד מאמין שההיגיון ינצח ובאמת נצליח ביחד לחגוג את פורים בעוד שבוע בדיוק, אבל שזה יהיה מתוך שמחה, מתוך בריאות, מתוך חיים ושלום.
I know that it's going to be good, and I know that come Purim, we're going to be able to celebrate Purim with joy and with happiness and real joy. But getting there is an incredibly difficult thing. And for that, we need help.
אני מאוד מאוד מודה לכם, ושיהיה באמת שמחה אמיתית לכל עם ישראל, ובאמת שיהפכו ימים אלה לששון ולשמחה לכולנו.
I thank all of you and wish all of you an incredibly happy and wonderful Purim. And that we should be able to celebrate these days in joy and in happiness. Yossi, can I ask you a question? I'll ask it in English because I know it's in everybody's head. And I will propose an answer, but I want to hear what you have to say. If you can't buy it with money, then what will money help? Now, my thought is that for money, you can buy anything. The question is how much money?
אנשים פה בעיר לא יכולים לקנות את זה. כשאני אומר שאי אפשר לקנות, אבל כשפותחים לי את המחסנים, זה עולה לנו המון כסף, אבל אנחנו יכולים לפתוח את המחסן ולהוציא את זה. מה שלקהל אין את האפשרות הזאת. 99.9% מהקהל אין גישה למקומות האלה.
There are sources that are still available, but those sources are closed to 99.99% of the people in Kherson. We still have connections that allow us to be able to access those sources, but it just simply costs a tremendous amount of money. Look, I will say this on an open Zoom line because I understand that, but I'm sure that everybody understands that not everything can be said and described in actual terms, how exactly and what exactly, but it can be done and it needs to be done. And I think that we have the responsibility to make sure that it does get done. And the notion that there should be a Jew who should have to, God forbid, starve just simply because of a lack of money in today's day and age should be absolutely unthinkable. So, right now, we are literally fighting a war against time. People are already going hungry. We need to be able to get more food to them, and it's there's no getting away. We simply have to have it. Rabbi Wolf, how many people are in the community that you're serving right now?
אצלנו בתוך העיר 1,150 משפחות.
1,500 families, which we're talking about then probably 3,500-4,000 people.
ממש ככה בדיוק.
Okay, and I would assume that it's not only Jewish people that you're serving.
רבי ישראל, אני אשלח לך תמונות. אתמול מתקשרת אליי איזו אישה מגרמניה. היא אומרת לי שיש פה בחרסון קבוצה של סטודנטים מניגריה ומקמרון.
I got a telephone call yesterday from somebody in Germany, a woman in Germany, said that there are two groups of students that are in Kherson from Nigeria and from Cameroon.
והם אכלו את הקרקרים האחרונים שלהם כבר.
They've just finished their last crackers.
מה אתה יכול לעשות? אמרתי שיבואו לבית הכנסת, אני אתן לכל אחד חבילת מזון.
She said to me, what can you do? I said, tell them to come here to our shul and I'll give them food. And they came and I gave them.
אבל לפני שהם הגיעו, אז הם עמדו בחוץ, מחוץ לבית כנסת, והם התחילו להצטבר קבוצה של סטודנטים שלא נראה שהם סיימו חיידר.
Before they came into the shul, they sort of gathered outside the shul, like a whole group of people. Did not look like people that had just finished Hebrew school.
ואז השומר אומר לי, כבוד הרב, נראה שיש בעיה מאוד רצינית בחוץ.
And the guard called and said, Rabbi, I think we have a problem. There is a group of people outside that does not look good.
אמרתי לו, זה לא בעיה, זה החיים.
It's not a problem, it's life. Let them in.
Let them in. הם נכנסו פנימה, והשומר אומר לי, אבל למה אתה נותן להם? מה, אתה הנשיא של אוקראינה? הוא אומר לי.
The guard said to me, why are you giving them? You're the president of Ukraine. They're not part of the community.
אמרתי לו, אנחנו אנשים.
I said, we are people. That's why we're giving them.
ואם מישהו מגיע ומבקש, אז אנחנו ניתן.
And if somebody comes to ask, we give.
אתמול נכנסת אליי בחורה בת 19 עם סוכרת נעורים לבית הכנסת. לא יהודייה.
מה?
אתמול נכנסה לבית הכנסת בחורה בת 19 עם סוכרת, דיאבט, איך אומרים?
Okay. A 19-year-old girl, not a Jewish girl, came in yesterday. She had diabetes and she needed insulin, I imagine.
אני עומד עם אשתי ורואים את המוות בעיניים של הבחורה.
My wife looked her in the eyes and said,
רואים, אני ואשתי רואים בחורה שרואים את המוות בעיניים שלה.
The two of us were looking at a young girl. You could see death in her eyes.
והיא אומרת, התקשרו, היא עומדת עם אבא שלה עומד בחוץ עם המכונית.
Father is outside in the car.
והוא נכנס עם הדלת. הוא נכנס בדלת של בית הכנסת. היא כבר נכנסה והוא נכנס אחריה.
He got out and came in behind her.
יש להם חבר בישראל, אמר להם, לכו לבית כנסת, יעזרו לכם.
She had a friend or the father has a friend in Israel, and he said, go to the shul, they'll help you.
והיא אומרת לי, אני חייבת עכשיו אינסולין, תציל אותי.
I must have insulin right now, save me.
אני בהתחלה אומר, רק שנייה, אבל אין לי אינסולין בבית כנסת, אבל אז שוב פעם, נכנס לי בראש, יש לי חבר, מנהל של בית חולים גדול פה אצלנו בעיר.
I said, I don't have any insulin in the shul. We don't store insulin here. But all of a sudden, I remembered I have a friend who has a hospital, and
ואני מתקשר אליו, אני אומר לו, תקשיב, יש פה בחורה בת 19, אני שולח אליך, אל תגיד לי לא, תציל אותה. היא תגיע, היא תגיד שהרב שלח אותה.
I tell him, I have a 19-year-old girl here. She must have insulin. Don't tell me no. She's coming, and she'll tell you that the rabbi sent her.
אחרי 15 דקות, אבא שלה מתקשר אליי, בוחר, אומר לי, הצלתם אותה.
15 minutes later, her father called me, crying, said, you saved her. You saved her.
תודה לכולם. בהצלחה רבה.
Thank you, all of you. If you may notice, I'm sure you did, on the chat, there is a link to be able to give money. The money will get to Ukraine and to Kherson a little bit quicker than you probably could imagine. Not being part of SWIFT is not really a problem for Chabad. Our ability to, I'll tell you the truth. I was once walking in the Capitol with Joe Lieberman when he was a senator, and we met Dick Durbin from Illinois, who was the head of the intelligence committee. And he said to Joe Lieberman, introduced me, he said, this is my Chabad rabbi in Connecticut. And this is Dick Durbin, the senator from the head of the intelligence committee. He said, Chabad, he said, their network is better than the CIA's. We are going to make sure that the Jewish community in Kherson will continue to not only survive, but to flourish and to rejoice. All of you, all K'nain Hora, 218 of you on this Zoom, and all of you that are watching on Facebook are hereby invited to join us together as we will rejoice together with the Kherson Jewish community, God willing, in good health very quickly. But until then, we need your help. It is absolutely, absolutely vital that you give, and that you give as much as you possibly can. We are not talking here about some type of vanity charity. We are talking about literally saving people's lives. They are in danger, literally, of starving to death. The name of the city, well, we keep saying Kherson because that's the way it's said in Ukrainian or in Russian, but in English it is Kherson, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for letting us be part of it. And the Eibishter soll euch benschen bekol tuv gashmi v'ruchni b'teiv ha'nira v'ha'nigla lanu, in every possible way. And Meretz Hashem, doch treffen auf Sukkos.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay. If there's any questions that you want to, is he afraid? The answer to that question, I think, is he's a human being, but he's also a superhuman human being. That's what it means to be a shliach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he, I am sure he feels Hashem together with him, and he and his wife. Probably should have had her on too. You know what? Meretz Hashem, for when we hear about the good news, we'll have them both. But the Eibishter is watching them. The Eibishter is protecting them. But Hashem wants you to help as well. Okay. Why is the Jewish community not? I'm sorry, didn't get that. Why is the Jewish community not exiting? You can't exit. They are surrounded on all sides by the Russians. They don't let, they're now, at this point, they're no longer letting them leave. For them to go through, I think you've heard on more than one occasion what's happening to the so-called exit corridors that are more dangerous than staying in place. How do they get food sent in?
Rabbi,
in other words, what?
Rabbi Danner, we just wanted to thank you on behalf of all the Chabad centers. You did a wonderful mitzvah by connecting us and the translation. I do want to do another plug just to all those which are on the Zoom. I feel like it's very rare that we have such a close connection to someone that's in such a situation of peril and danger on the front lines. There's so many different causes out there. There's no question about it. But when you hear someone talking about gold being potatoes and onions, potatoes you can't eat because, we know why we don't eat potatoes, but over there it's gold. And, people are starving and the need is real. I just want to put another plug in. People should really, really please step up. It's the time, it's a moment. God will for sure fill your coffers. We can be there for others. We need to be there for others. And thank you everyone for your outpouring of love and support for our fellow brethren. And of course, may God send us accordingly blessing.
Okay, so what is the address? You can see right underneath the person who asked what's the address. You have New Canaan's site. By the way, I just like to let you know, so those that realize that this is jointly Stamford, Greenwich, New Canaan, Ridgefield, Westport. Did I miss anybody? Fairfield. So it can be any of them. Does Rabbi Wolf have children? Yes, he does. Have they left Ukraine? I believe so. I believe he's there. I believe he was able to send his children out and they stayed. Aside from giving money, what else can you do to help? You can say Tehillim. That's, as a matter of fact, well, I don't have it in front of us, but if you want to follow along with me, we'll say one chapter of Tehillim, I think right now, and that Hashem should help them. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid Yancha Adonai B'Yem Tzara Yisagevcha Shem Elehei Yankev Sela Yishlach Ezrecha Mikedesh Umitzion Yisadeka Yiskar Kol Min Chesecha Ve'elascha yidashnesela, yitain lecha chilvavecha, v'chol atzascha yimalei. Niranan abishua secha v'shem Eloheinu nidgal yimalei adonai kol mishalei secha ata yadati ki yeshian adonai mishichei ya'anei mishmei kodshay b'gvuras yesha yemineim elev v'rechev v'elev v'susim v'anachnu b'shem adonai Eloheinu naskir heima karu v'nafolu v'anachnu kamnu v'nis'edad adonai hoshia Hamelech Ya'anenu V'yem Kareinu. There's any contributions up to $1,000. An incredibly generous person is willing to match. That's Randy Katzel. How can we be sure the rabbi is safe to help others? I think that the Kapitel Tilim and your tzedakah, I guess your tzedakah has a double merit. It has its simple value because it's going to get to help people that tzedakah itself. But the very fact that you did the mitzvah, the very fact that you made up your mind that you're going to do the mitzvah is already helping keep the rabbi and the rebbetzin safe. How is the food sent in? Again, Vlad, I'll tell you a story. The minister, what? The simple answer is there are sources. When you say there's no food anywhere, there is food somewhere. Someone has it, or it's that's being saved for something for someone, and for exorbitant and enormous amounts of money, it can be accessed. But is that? In addition, there are ways of getting food in. Again, you can't do it by calling Costco. It's by with enormously dangerous, difficult ways. But again, it can be done. When we end this war, I would say the best way to end the war is another chapter of Tehillim, some more tzedakah, and some more Torah learning. Or you can click on the article there. Thank you, Shari. Is in Kherson, and the security and protection that he has primarily comes from Hashem. And yes, there is some security, but the security of the type that'll protect against a robber or something of that sort, or there's really hard to get security against the Russian army. For that, he needs divine protection, and divine protection is what he has. Okay, so thank you, all of you, and I hope that we can gather together the next time, and don't have to wait so long to do it, but to gather together again for happy occasions, for good occasions, and we should hear good news from Kherson. We'll be happy to share any that we get as soon as we get it, and just good and all good. Have a good night. Tonight actually is a pretty important night in terms of having good stuff come. It's the 7th of Adar. Well, it's the 7th of the 2nd Adar, but it's definitely Moshe Rabbeinu's day. And it's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu was born. And it's the day that allows, in a week from now, to actually have the happiest day on the Jewish calendar, which of course is the day of Moshe Rabbeinu's bris, otherwise known as Purim. Have a good night.